Thanks for listening and subscribing to episode 242 of the Clive Barker Podcast. In this episode, Jose and Ryan, that's me, we take a break from our book to catch up on Hellraiser, Candyman, and Clive Barker convention news, as well as a late-breaking news story about the Imagineer art books. Welcome. This is, we're returning a little bit, just a break from the hiatus. This is a news episode number 242. And I'm Ryan.
And I'm Joe.
And hey.
Yeah, so we got some news here that piled up a little bit over our hiatus, which is a weird word, but we're still working hard on that book, transcribing things. And in the meantime, some funny developments happened, one of them being that the Candyman Reboot has started filming, right? So the Jordan Peele Candyman spiritual sequel has started filming, which is great. They said they were going to do that in the spring of this year, and turns out they're doing it a little bit on the fall, but that's fine. So yeah, there's pictures of the locations where they've been shooting and all that, right?
Yeah. It seems like news about this movie has been sort of a roller coaster. At least for me, it's like, oh, Tony Todd's not going to be in it now. Now I'm not excited about it. And oh, yes, he is going to be in it. Okay, I'm excited again. It's like, oh, it's a reboot. No, I'm not excited. Oh, no, it's not a reboot. It's an actual like sequel.
A spiritual sequel.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now I am excited about it. So I'm kind of gonna just go into this with no expectations, and I'm.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's good. The director I hear is really good. So
notices, it says here, we got this from an article from blockclubchicago.org, and there's an article here saying Jordan Peele's Candyman sequel is now filming in North Park. So that's where they're doing this, and it's great that they're working on it. You see, there was a working title for this movie, I think. It was called, says, notices for the new production have been popping up around town since August, flying under the radar by using the title, Say My Name. Pro tip, do not say Candyman's name.
Yeah.
And so it seems like they've been filming in places like Kenwood, Marina City, and the old Cook County Hospital. And I think they're supposed to be returning to Cabrini Green, air quotes, which is, obviously long gone from Chicago. It was demolished years and years ago. But they're using some of these locations to pretend like it's Cabrini Green. And I think there's going to be some sort of gentrification subplot going in. So we don't know a lot about the story, but it's great that they're doing, they're shooting the movie already. So that's always a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and we'll make our judgments after we watch the movie instead of before.
Yeah. So it says here, Peele's version, filming entirely in Chicago, will return to the now gentrified neighborhood where the legend began, according to a description from the film studio. And the actor, one of the actors in the movie, one of the cast members, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who was also in Us and Aquaman, he's been posting some pictures on Instagram of the locations, and he's tagging them as Cabrini Green row houses. And he's got some pictures of some houses, and then he's got a selfie of himself in his trailer. So it says, week 3 from the set of Candyman, happy hump day. So that's great that they're working on it, and they're really marketing this thing. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm excited about this. I want to see what they come up with, and nobody's going to take away your old Candyman movies. So
yeah, exactly.
Except maybe for the third one, which they should.
Yeah, right. They should just put that in Candyman box sets, rather than continuing to have its own release.
Yeah. So Jordan Peele filming in Chicago.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Maybe we'll be getting. He said week 3 of shooting. So wow, that's actually pretty long for a movie. I would imagine 3 weeks. So they must be almost done with this, I hope. And I guess we'll be seeing any news from post-production when they start working on it. That'll be fun to see more stuff come out, because in post-production is usually when they start the marketing as well, and maybe they'll come up with a trailer at some point. So that's something to look for.
And speaking of trailers, the Little Spark Films, the people that helped us with our interview in Texas at Texas Frightmare weekend. We've talked about their short film, The Torturer, based on Paul Kane's short story before, and now there's a trailer out for it.
That's right. It was published on September 13th, so that was Friday, and man, this is a heck of a trip. I mean, it's a great job. It's got Paul T. Taylor in it, and it's got let's see, who else is in it? I don't know the names by heart.
The guy who's the torturer.
His name starts
prominently.
Yeah, his name starts with a V. Let me just get that. So,
and I haven't read this short story, so I didn't understand, I guess, because there's a bunch of like zombie ghost people kind of looking at Paul T. Taylor's character through the trailer. Right. Do you know what that's about or why those guys are there? I mean, I guess it's a teaser, so.
Yeah, I've had a chance to read the script, so no spoilers here. But I've read the script, so it's going to be brutal. It's going to be a heck of a story, and they're trying to fund the post-production, and they've been hard at work at that. You know, they got this trailer out. You know, they're doing events to gather up money to be able to complete the production. I myself backed this yesterday, right before it was over with 2 hours to go, and they were like halfway through their expected amount of money that they needed. But they're still working hard at making, you know, all sorts of events, you know, burlesque, you know, they were at Satanic Panic with Fangoria event
I think they aired their trailer there, didn't they? Before the movie. I think so. Yeah. So I mean, look at the trailer. Watch the trailer if you're listening to this, and I think you will find that it looks pretty amazing. It's like a journey of a man inside his own personal hell, and you know, of course, with Paul T. Taylor as the person who gets tortured, and another guy called Varnado, I think he's the torturer. So it's looking pretty good. I would love to see this movie come to light, and let's help them finish production on this movie because you know, Paul T. Taylor deserves it, Little Spark Films deserves it, and everybody involved in this deserves it. And their Indiegogo is finished, but I'm sure if you contacted them, they would love to get more support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go to the Little Spark Films page, get in touch with them. It's being directed by Joe Manco, and you know,
edited
talk
by
to him.
Catalina Carida. Both of them are friends of the show, have been on the show before. And this movie has a couple of pretty decent Hellraiser ties, right? Because Paul T. Taylor was Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgment. And also, of course, it's based on a short story written by Paul Kane, who is a Hellraiser expert. He's written 2 books on the Hellraiser franchise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, the Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell, the Hellraiser films in their legacy book, and also one book that kind of flew over the radar. We'll need to fix that at some point. Hellraisers, an interview book with lots of people that were involved in the Hellraiser franchise. So go there, check it out. Look at their magnificent poster called The Torturer. They have it up on their Facebook page and IMDb, and watch the trailer. It's pretty amazing. It's they've been hard at work, and they've been updating their IMDb page. Last update there was from late June of this year. They've been posting lots of behind-the-scenes pictures, and it's got Paul T. Taylor as Andy Brooks, Lawrence Varnado as the torturer, Rob Hudspeth as Sarge, and a whole bunch of other people. So,
and speaking of that, of Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell, I just now finally finished reading that book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we had you guys did an interview podcast episode, and I had to stay out of it because I just didn't finish reading the book in time, and that was like
I remember
2 years ago. Yeah,
it was me and Rob.
Yeah. So now, because of not doing all this podcast production stuff of the hiatus, I actually had some time to, you know, and the Hellraiser podcast people did an interview about the book. I'm like, well, I want to listen to this episode, but I don't want the book to get spoiled. So I finished reading it finally, and it was great. It was really good. I especially like this final battle at the end.
Yeah. No spoilers, but yeah, you guys should read it if you haven't, because it's almost like a reimagining of Hellraiser in the Victorian times. So,
Yeah.
There's going to be Frank, there's going to be Julia. I think her name is Juliana. But and there's of course Sherlock Holmes and Watson.
Little nods and cameos from characters from all the sequels.
Yeah.
Up to that point when it was written. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of a tangent, I suppose. But speaking of Hellraiser, Hellraiser 1 just turned 32.
Yeah, that was exciting because it seems like just 2 years ago we got that Arrow box, the Scarlet box, and everybody was celebrating Hellraiser. It was being screened at the BFI, the British Film Institute, and it finally got the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
And now it's been 2 years after that, and there's still, still a lot of fans out there, still a lot of people watching Hellraiser every day. I know I do. I'm actually going to watch a screening of Hellraiser in 35 millimeter film. It's going to happen in October at the Alamo Draft House.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Tempe, Arizona.
I'm jealous. That sounds really fun.
Well, it's probably going to be the theatrical cut if it's on film. It's probably not going to be the super, high res, restored, rescanned, version that was in the Arrow. But it's still fun because, that movie in any form is always fun. You see the movie grain, the film grain, and you're going to see the popping and the cigarette burns and whatever. I don't know. It's just so much more cool to watch that movie in that analog film format instead of just digital DCP being projected onto a screen. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be probably the theatrical cut, but I'll let you guys know.
Well, and so I guess in December, then Hellbound will turn 31, and Hellraiser 3, I guess on the same day, turned 27 this year, right, in September.
Yes. So September 11 was a very auspicious date for Hellraiser, apparently. And yes, so Danny was telling us, our friend Danny Stewart, friend of the show, he was telling us, hey, don't forget you're celebrating Hellraiser's birthday, but in the UK, but Hellraiser 3 was released this day as well in 1992. And I was like, yeah. But, one of the last Hellraisers to make it to the screen, one of the last few. It was great. Clive Barker did talk a little bit about, or I think it was Doug Bradley. He talked a little bit about that in Monster Mania about Hellraiser 3. He brought up something about how that movie was supposed to have originally a full-blown rock and roll soundtrack, which kind of still does. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think
it's about half and half, right?
Yeah, half and half. The other half is
Randy Miller.
I forgot. Randy Miller. Thank you. Yeah. And so he was saying something about because if you were at Monster Mania 43, there was a Hellraiser reunion panel, and we'll get to that a little bit more up ahead. But I just wanted to bring up that he mentioned Doug Bradley mentioned how it was like to be with Lemmy shooting the video for Hellraiser, the music that plays at the end of Hellraiser 2, which was originally written by Ozzy Osbourne, which you're a great fan of, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, he I think he misspoke a little bit because it's really Ozzy Osbourne and Lemmy co-wrote that song together, and Ozzy did release that song. It's on the No More Tears album,
right?
And Motorhead has it on their March or Die album. So they both have their own version of it, and it's just the Motorhead version is the one that made it to Hellraiser 3.
Right. It already existed when Hellraiser 3 was being made, because I remember getting a work print of Hellraiser and Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and it was a work print that had Hellraiser 2 music score throughout the movie as a temporary score. And then at the end of it, instead of credits, they just play Ozzy Osbourne's version of Hellraiser. So that was a work print before the movie was out.
Oh, really? So in the work print, it said Ozzy Osbourne's version was going to be on there.
Yeah, no, it actually plays that after the last scene. It plays the Ozzy Osbourne version of Hellraiser.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So that was something that made me think, he did record that before the movie was done. So, but anyway, so having Lemmy sing it was even more awesome. And then, of course, the music video. Um, Listen to that video of the Hellraiser reunion panel that we're going to be putting up in the show notes, because Doug Bradley tells how he was shooting the video with Lemmy, and Lemmy just had this big flagon of amber liquid that he kept drinking and getting it refilled. And then at the end, when he was getting up, he was kind of wobbly. So and meanwhile,
and of course that panel is really auspicious and interesting because something that as far as I know, has never happened before. Clive Barker crashed the panel and came up and sat with everybody and talked to people for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, he shows up in that video around the 6.5-minute mark, and then he leaves around the 33-minute mark. So yeah, like you said, it was about 25 minutes. It was sitting down, and he was just talking about all sorts of things. There was this one thing that I remember from their panel is when Doug Bradley says that when he was playing Pinhead in Hellraiser 1, that time when there's all the floodlights are on them, and Christy is in the hospital, and the Cenobites appear, and they say, what does he say? I forgot. But it's like one of those moments where Pinhead is like on screen, and there's all this smoke flying around, and there's all this floodlight on. That at one point, Clive said he wanted the smoke machine to be put under Pinhead's outfit, and so that smoke would just start rising up in between the costume, and it would seem like he would say, like, Doug, you look like you just crawled out of hell. You still have all that smoke and sulfur coming out of you. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll do that then. So he opened up his legs, and they put the smoke machine underneath Pinhead's skirt, and there's all this smoke coming out while he's speaking. Then the next day he comes in, and the director of photography says, hey, Doug, so you remember that scene we did with the smoke machine? We're gonna have to do that again differently. And he's like, oh, okay, why? And he's like, well, because it seems like when you're saying that scene, it seems like you're actually on fire. And we were watching that, and it seems like we're just expecting someone to come in with a bucket of water and just throw it on you, because it's like it looks like you're on fire. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, so sometimes an idea that seems okay in real life while you're on set, on film probably doesn't translate as well. But so they did it differently. But I thought that was an interesting little memory.
And Simon Bamford kind of chimed in after that, and he said, yeah, but, it worked really well in Nightbreed, putting a smoke machine underneath him to make him look like he was on fire, when in the moment before Onaka exploded, right? So
under the sun.
So it wasn't wasted, I think was his point, is that, then they found a good application for doing that.
Right. And there was a brief moment when Clive mistakenly said that Oliver Smith had passed away, and everybody at the table was like perturbed and was like, what? I just see like Barbie Wilde's face going back and forth, like, he died? And then, of course, Oliver Smith is still alive, the guy who played Frank the Monster.
He just had health issues, right?
Yeah, he had a really bad heart attack, so he's recovering from that. And so, yes, but he's still alive. He's still with us, thankfully. And I think we may be able to see him next in another Dark Ditties Presents episode.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. Another thing that Clive brought up was that he name-dropped a director that's working with him for a Nightbreed series, right?
Yeah, was it John Doherty?
I think it was Michael Doherty he said. Yeah, they said that they're directing the Nightbreed series together. So he's producing and this guy's directing. So I didn't really remember this name being mentioned at any time about Nightbreed, but it seems like Clive name dropped him.
Only Josh Stolberg as a writer. I think that's what we've heard.
Right. So anyway, that's interesting. Michael Doherty working on a Nightbreed series. I don't know the extent to which he's involved with that, or at what point that production is going, but I'm sure that news
has been really, really non-existent. I mean, the only thing we've heard now is just stuff from Clive's interviews.
Yeah, unless we show up at Josh Stolberg's house and say, "Hey, what's going on with the Nightbreed show, Josh?"
Yeah, right.
That, or maybe just at him on Twitter.
Right.
which I'm not advocating people do. But yeah, if you want to, Josh Stolberg is your guy. He's the one writing it. So if you want to ask him what's going on with Nightbreed, at him on Twitter.
Yeah.
So that was fun seeing Clive, like you said, crash the interview and be up on the panel with all the other actors that he directed over the years. That was really awesome.
And in addition to that, so Monster Mania seemed like a really big one. And actually, going back, I want to mention that the guy that runs Monster Mania seemed like really happy that Clive was there and stuff. But when I went to Monster Mania in 2012 and Clive couldn't make it because of his health, that guy did a speech where he was really mad, that Clive didn't make it, and people had VIP packages, and all they were getting was an autographed photo instead of getting to meet Clive and stuff. And he did a speech to everybody in front of the Hellraiser screening, just saying how angry and it's not his fault and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just was. I remember, Mark was kind of, and they told Mark, you're no substitute for Clive Barker. We're not paying your way, and.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ouch. That seems like those things are behind us now, because he seemed like he was really happy, and so that was cool. That was a cool thing to see, and I hope everybody at Monster Mania had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But we did have one particular fan, right, who posted posted a lot in the Clive Barker groups about his experience meeting Clive, and he even got a chance to take some video while Clive was signing his book, right?
Yeah, getting writing advice about writing short stories and how to find publishers, and it was pretty neat. So that's a good video to watch, and we've got a link in the show notes. I think that's only like 5 minutes long, but really interesting to see.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if I remember what he was telling him, but he gave him advice as a writer. He said something about that there used to be a lot of magazines that published short stories, and that he was just basically telling me you need to have the balls to expect to be rejected. He told him, I got rejected a lot, Yeah. But so basically he was telling him just to keep doing it. And he was going on towards Thief of Always, talking about the Thief of Always, saying they didn't want to publish it. And then I said, well, I'll just charge you $1 to publish it. And nowadays he's got Aberrat going, which is a huge series. So he broke that wall about writing for children, and basically he's just telling him, keep writing, keep doing what you're doing, because eventually you're going to find your market,
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to see. It's nice to see that maybe because of his health improving, that they're sort of cutting back on, we talked about this a little earlier, that they're cutting back on restrictions of your time with him, because when you and I were there for Texas Frightmare weekend, we waited in line for 6 hours to see him. And when we got up there, they're like, okay, no talking, just put your item in front of Clive and you get your thing signed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No personalization, no chatting, no drawings. Just, keep the line moving. And, I got to say, hey, Clive, thank you for being here. I love your work so much. Thank you very much. And he signed my Hellraiser poster, and it was great. And then at the photo op, of course, that was the big moment where we all showed up, and he was like, the gang's all here.
Yeah.
And that was great. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jeremy Schwartz, for putting up those videos. That was really good.
Yeah. Did he also do the one with the showing all of the stuff in Clive Barker's autograph room?
No, I think there was someone different. Let me just check the name. The name of that YouTube channel was, let's see, that's also a very interesting video, because you see all these like pieces of Clive Barker's art hanging around the room, and it was Michael Cavaccini.
And
he put that up.
And they even sorted through books of artwork. So like turning every page. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I saw it. The Blu-ray of the Nightbreed Cabal cut was standing up on the wall for sale.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah. We did that commentary track for it, so that's awesome that we're an officially sanctioned Clive Barker product, and that is so cool.
Yeah.
And of course, there is an Armando and a Ryan in the Scarlet Gospels as well.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. So that is a great video. You get to see a lot of Clive Barker's art in there. And thank you, Michael, for putting it up on YouTube. And I'm actually surprised that they let you like film all that stuff in there, because it was pretty tight when we went to see Clive. It was like no filming anywhere, no pictures, nothing. So that's awesome. And I'm glad that Clive is doing so many new conventions, and he's looking so much better. Clive will also be at the Days of the Dead in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, Rob, if you're listening, this is your chance to go meet Clive again. That's going to be 27th of September through the 29th.
Yeah.
So he's going to be at Days of the Dead. And 2 more events are confirmed this year. Mm-hmm. So apart from that, there's also a Halloween trip to Spooky Empire in Tampa, Florida, that Clive is going to be attending, hopefully, and early notice for Texas Frightmare in Dallas, Texas in May of 2020.
Yeah.
Maybe we can return to Dallas and get to see Clive again. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool.
Because this year it was just way too fast. Everything sold out super fast, like on the same day or maybe a couple of days. Everything was like completely sold. VIP passes were sold. Hotel rooms were booked. Yeah, and I was like, man, we really dropped the ball on that one. So maybe next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, no signings in Fairbanks, Alaska.
They did send Pitbull there once. So.
Pitbull?
The music producer. Yeah, the music producer. There was this is stupid, but as an aside, I think at one point Pitbull, the music producer, they were saying, where would you like to have him go next to meet his fans? And a bunch of people decided to troll the question, and they said to send him to Alaska. And so he ended up winning, and he, in his honor, in his tribute, he did go to Alaska. He did meet some of his fans, and he said he loved the place. It was beautiful. So to everybody who thought they were sending him to a Siberian-like gulag in Alaska, it didn't turn out that way.
Oh.
He actually had a lot of fun. So,
what city was that?
Let me check. I mean, I can check that real quick.
I've never heard of Pitbull.
Oh, well, that's fortunate for you, because Pitbull isn't really I don't really think he makes very good music, but they sent him to Kodiak, Alaska.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. As a result of an online prank.
That's where Peggy O'Leary is from.
Yeah, as an online prank that was trolled, that place where they said where should he go next, they said Kodiak, Alaska. They voted on it massively, and so he ended up going to the most remote Walmart in the country, which was in Kodiak, Alaska. In the video, Pitbull accepts his mission without complaints. So I mean, there was even a picture of him standing in front of a stuffed bear with his arms open, saying, "Hey, I'm here in Alaska, Kodiak, Walmart to meet my fans." So, wow. I mean, come on. Alaska's not that ugly. I mean, I saw a picture of the United States seen through Alaskan point of view, and it was like most of the map of America and then the map of Alaska next to it, gigantic map. Mm-hmm. And it's like it kind of makes the U.S. look small in comparison almost. And I mean, you guys got 90-degree temperature this summer over there. So
yeah, it was actually 78 yesterday, and I couldn't believe it. It's like normally it's freezing at night by now, but we still have our garden up.
You can finally wear your Hawaiian shirts in the sun.
Yeah, I do that anyway.
Yeah,
even in the winter.
Yeah. It's funny because one time my dad used to work in Canada, and he used to tell me stuff about his travels there and the places he had been. And I remember one time he brought me back a coloring book, and one of them was from Alaska, and there was, of course, a lot of landscapes that's just snow and ice that I had to color in. But then my dad, I remember this, I must have been like 7, 8 years old, 6 years old. I don't know. I was in the single digits for sure. And I made like one of those, I colored one of those landscapes, and I was using a lot of just blues because it was ice. And then my dad went in there and he drew some flowers on the floor. And I was like, Dad, that's just snow. And he's like, yeah, but in the summertime, it blooms there. It's not snowy all the time.
Yeah.
So you can paint this part green and paint some flowers on it. And I never forgot about that. I was like, yeah, he's right. There is summer there. So that was a learning experience for me.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people think that it's just like living on a sheet of ice, in an igloo or whatever.
Right. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah. And oh yeah, there's also in I guess kind of more minor news, but I guess not for people in Germany. There's Infernal Parade and Tortured Souls are getting German releases of the book versions of those.
Yeah. So they're being published by Bookheim Verlag. So Phil and Sarah posted that on Clive Barker's page on August 23rd, and that's awesome because these books are making their way to more fans around the world. And you got the Cemetery Dance compilation, Barker story in there. You're going to get the Infernal Parade, like you said, and Tortured Souls, which cool books in their own right.
Yeah.
And so it says at the end of the year there will be. Says at the end of the year there will be a double signed by Clive Barker of his 2 novellas. I guess this is kind of German/English, so it doesn't make a lot of sense grammatically, but and especially for this, completely new illustrations are created by Daniel Serra, illustrator, who is also known by other Clive Barker illustrations for other Clive Barker illustrations. I guess the guy who wrote this is German. Yeah. And of course, also signed for you. The book will be part of the series Cemetery Dance Germany, most likely directed Band 5. I don't know what that means. So it is limited to 999 copies, hand numbered, hand shaped. I don't think it's hand shaped. I think they mean hand numbered and anyway, whatever. Maybe no reprint, no ebooks.
Cloth bound or something, or
handmade maybe. They said hand shaped.
Yeah.
So yeah. I know this is a translation from English. So yeah. It seems like these will be available by €5 each, and awesome. So Bookheim Verlag, Infernal Parade and Tortured Souls. So if you never read Clive Barker in German, here's your chance to read those stories in German, because they translate everything in Germany. So I personally would suggest reading them in English first, just because I think I would compare, this might be unfair for some people, but I would compare reading a book in the original English from an English author the same as like either you buy a sculpted kit, or you buy a recast of the kit. So the recast is not going to be it's not going to be what the actual sculptor did. It's going to be something that's going to be a copy of it, and it's going to be translated into a different media.
Like when you make a copy of a VHS tape.
Yeah, that might be unfair for translators. I know they do the best job they can, but honestly, if you want to read Clive Barker, you should probably read it in English. It's much more it's a beautiful language, and he really works it like a goldsmith. So that's my take on that.
But at least this is making Clive Barker more accessible in other countries, and maybe people who become, more people will become fans, and then we'll go back and find the original English.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. And like I said, this may seem unfair that I said that, because people from other countries deserve to read Clive Barker stories too.
Yeah.
If they can't read it in English, then it's great that they have this in their own language, where they can still experience some of the crazy, beautiful, imaginative landscapes of Clive Barker's books.
Yeah. And so I guess we have one more CPA Authentic signing. So I think they did signings at one of the conventions for Clive and a bunch of other guests, where you mail in your stuff and they'll get it autographed for a fee and mail it back to you.
Yeah. So this is great, because there's a lot of these actors who don't really do a lot of conventions, and this is a great way to get their autograph on your item. So it says here, don't forget, we have these ultra rare private signings that will be happening in October. If you ever wanted to start a Hellraiser 1 or 2 piece, this is the perfect opportunity. And they say, we have photos and movie posters, some pre-signed by Clive Barker, ready, or you can mail in your own item. So what's really exciting is that they're getting signings with people like Claire Higgins, Oliver Smith,
who's still alive. Yeah.
Or Ken Cranham, who played the name escapes me, Dr. Chenard. Yeah. So if you have a poster from Hellraiser 2 and you got it signed by all the squad, like Barbie Wilde, Nicholas Vince, Simon Banford, help me out here.
Peter Atkins.
Who am I forgetting? Peter Atkins.
Ashley Lawrence.
Ashley Lawrence, yeah. And you're missing Frank the Monster, or you're missing Claire Higgins, because, sometimes it's hard to get a hold of her in conventions because she's a very busy actress. This is the chance. This is your chance to get that item completed. And I'm actually tempted to get one with Oliver Smith. So it says
you
here
haven't
prices.
framed your poster yet?
No, it's still in my office, folded in a little drawer. So it says here, rare private signing with Oliver Smith, Skinless Frank in Hellraiser 1 and 2. Orders close October 11. Prices start at $30. So you can mail in your own item. That's something to look forward to. We'll post a link in the show notes. So if you want to get these autographs, Dr. Chenard, it's really hard to get Ken Cranham, I guess. So that's another one that
I know he's been at some of the conventions, but none of them I've ever been to. And Andrew Robinson is another one. It's like he was supposed to be at one and that I went to, but he didn't make it.
And they do a lot of consignment autograph sessions with a lot of people, like the guy from Jigsaw, the guy who played Jason, the stunt guy. What's his name? Kane Hodder. Okay, Kane Hodder. Yeah, yes. You can get autographs from Kane Hodder. The guy who played Jigsaw and all those people. So, like you said, they even do this for certain conventions. So that's always an interesting thing to be able to get that signed. You can mail in your item, or you can buy an item already signed by Clive Barker as well. So check out that link.
Yeah, and so getting back to our interview book, we have been working really hard on it, and I want to give a special shout out to Raul from the Discord chat again, because he just sent us another one. That he got finished, another interview that he, and so we've also been getting a bunch of these done, and we are down to like the last 3 or 4, I think, to get done of those, and then we'll do an edit to make them more readable, so that we're taking out all the ums and the repeating words and stuff like that, and I actually was just running a few of them through the transcription service we were using, Temi. So I was just running 3 of those through it today, and almost there, guys. Just bear with us a little bit more. And Raul, I love you, man. You're doing a great job. You have the same name as my brother, so that's even more awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much for all your hard work doing this, and to everybody who's been helping us. Yeah. Even if you're just giving us some moral support and saying, you guys can do this. And Rob Reidenauer, right at the beginning when we started this, he got like 4 or 5 of these done too. So huge shout out to Rob. We miss you.
We speak so much in these things, and sometimes I'm transcribing and I'm like, why am I going on such a long rant about this?
I've done that too. I've done that too. I'm listening and I'm transcribing and I'm going, shut up, Ryan.
I know. Like, I was doing that the other day, and I turned to my wife. She was walking past the office, and I was like, we're just so nerds. And she was like, yep. Because, when you're transcribing, sometimes you're playing the same section over and over, trying to understand what you were saying or something. And so you have to listen to that thing like several times.
Yeah, and you have to get over being annoyed by your own voice.
Yes.
Which is hard.
It is very hard. It's very hard. That's why when I edited some of our episodes, sometimes I would end up cutting like things that I would say, because I'd be like, why am I saying this? Oh no, let me take this out. And just, I would just cut out some parts that I felt were not important, or things that I was saying. But anyway, so you will never know.
There are people out there who do podcasts and they transcribe every episode.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine how much work that is? I mean, I guess if you just use Temi or something and you don't edit it, and somebody wants to read that, I mean, it's not perfect, and it takes a little tweaking to get it right.
Right.
Not a little, it takes a lot.
It works if you're just by yourself and you got a good microphone and you're speaking very clearly, then it will probably come out from that transcription service almost 99% perfect. But when you're doing interviews and you got 2-3 people talking at the same time, and then one of them's on a phone, on a landline, and the other is on Skype, and people sometimes are talking a little bit on top of each other, it just completely muddles the transcription. It's just super hard to get through that. But it's happening,
and
it's almost there.
And we have a lot of terms and things that a computer program is not going to know. It's like when it hears Cabal Cut, I mean, how many different ways have you seen Cabal Cut written? I mean, I've seen probably like 6 or 7. You know, I've seen COBOL, like, you know, the programming language. That one comes up a lot.
Yeah, or the planet where a god lives in the Mormon religion, Kobol.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something like that. But yeah, your name, for example, your name has been Ryan Danhouse.
Oh, God.
It's been all sorts of things. I mean, myself, you know, when people say Jose and my name just appears as like 2 or 3 different words, and I'm like, it's like phonetics, right? It's like it's sometimes it just transcribes it phonetically, and I would imagine it's like transliteration of like Japanese into like, instead of saying Portugal, they would say Portugal or something like that. So it's like sometimes the syllables get transcribed, but that's not an actual word.
And even stuff that really annoys me is like when you hear or and this happened. You know, all of that stuff gets written down, and it just adds a lot of time to the process, having to cut all that out. Or you say half of a sentence and then you have an aside and then you go back to that, or, you know, then we got to edit that. So, because we don't want it to be hard to read.
Yeah. But so one of the things that I want to bring up to the table is a little bit about how the book's going to be like. And so we will put in not just interviews, but we'll also have some essays, some blog posts that we posted about Nightbreed. We're going to put those in. We're going to put in some of our own Midian unmade rejected stories in there as well. And we'll have other people who might be able to write something for us. We're still working on those things. We just talked to Andrew Furtado, who was in one of our episodes when he was editing the director's cut with Mark Miller and Clive Barker. So we may be able to put in his editor diaries in there. So it's not 100% guarantee, but we're working on putting some interesting stuff as well. So there'll be different sections in the book. And we did get the permission to get Lude's father, Clive Barker, drawing onto the cover, so that's still on the table. And so we're really hard at work at this, and the hiatus will continue until morale improves. But but so we had to put this little, news episode in, so people know we're not dead. We're not gone. We're just really, really hard at work at this. And maybe we'll be able to get people like Ed Martinez, one of our podcast friends, to make a little bit of content so we can add that to some future episodes, news episodes.
Yeah, he had talked about doing something like that, which I think would be really nice.
Yeah, so we will definitely we won't be like leaving you guys in the dark. We'll keep on making a news episode here and there, and maybe even a theme episode. We just want to let you know the hiatus might come back a little bit because it's just life gets in the way, and it's like, so a lot of work goes into transcribing these things.
And we're also doing some planning of the layout too, like Jose was just talking about. So we've got big plans for this thing, and once we have all of our raw material put together, which is these interviews, we gotta get them in a legible format, cut out the parts that aren't relevant, and then put them in the kind of order that we like, and that's when we can start the official editing and publishing.
Yeah, So we got some options for publishing the book. We started out with blurb.com, but it seems like there's maybe other options on the table that might be a little more efficient. So without mentioning any names for now, well, we're working on that. But the main goal here is to have everything transcribed and placed onto a master file where we can start editing the sections and editing in what we want to be a part of the book.
And especially we're doing this especially for the people who pre-ordered this book 3 Kickstarters ago.
Yes, I know. It's coming. It's coming.
We didn't realize what we were undertaking, but we have not forgotten. The money's still put away that we're going to use to make this book, and we're going to figure out a way to make orders for the book again once we have a release date. So either through Kickstarter or through a publisher or something, we'll have another way. So when you guys keep hearing us talking about this, but you never ordered one, if you want to, you still have a chance.
Yeah. It's been a great 7 years so far doing the podcast, and I'm still using the same laptop that I used to use when we started this.
Oh God.
And right now, I don't know if you can hear it, but if you can hear that humming noise, that's actually my computer's fan that's kind of on the fritz.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Unfortunately, that might be seeping into the podcast. I had plans to buy a new computer, but again, life gets in the way, and we had some job developments that didn't go through, and so right now I'm putting that on hold. So I need a new computer.
Yeah, I do.
But we'll get to that. Yeah,
I have a 2012.
Mine is a 2010 computer. Yeah, it's 9 years old now.
Jeez. Yeah, mine, the battery doesn't work anymore. But other than that, it's mostly okay. I mean, its internal SSD is really small, so I have to just use external hard drives with it.
But anyway, that doesn't stand in our way because we're going to get this done, and it's going to be awesome to have our own book of the Clive Barker podcast interviews. And again, some of this stuff will be work that's already pre-done if we do decide to make a second book of interviews about focusing more on Hellraiser actors and Hellraiser stuff.
Right, because they're a lot of the same actors. So the transcription's been done. That's
the beauty of it. And then if we have to do a few more transcriptions, then, that will be a lot faster. So I honestly am very stoked about having an interview book out. We never got anything published. I never got anything published. So this will be an interesting step for us to be able to publish this interview book and leave a legacy of our podcast. If we do, I don't know how long we're going to keep doing this, but at least, putting this book out would be a great collectible for all Clive Barker fans out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that too. It's just this initial slog is really hard, and once we get over that, it'll get a lot more fun, and I think things will go a little more smoothly.
Yeah, because I have ideas. You have ideas for other people to come into the podcast, and so we can interview them. We just don't want to add more stuff on the table until we actually get this stuff done. So that's pretty much the update on the book.
Yeah. Yep, and this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. Okay, we're not done quite yet, so don't stop your podcast just yet. I wanted to say really quick, this news just came up when we were done recording, so as I'm editing this, I wanted to put this in. But if you go over to clivebarkerarchive.com, they did a new blog post talking about Imaginer 7 and Imaginer 8 updates. So they've got Imaginer 7 all put together and sent on to the printers. So that's great. That means pre-orders are going to be open for that really soon. And it says they've completed the selection for Imaginer 8 too. So Imaginer 8 will probably be available not super long after Imaginer 7, and that will complete the entire 8-book art series. I mean, this is so comprehensive, so much better than any previous Clive Barker art book series, or books in general. So I personally just for money, I'm behind on mine. I've got 1 through 4. I don't have 5 and 6 yet, and now of course 7 and 8 are on their way. So, gotta catch up. But anyway, just wanted to throw that one out there. And this podcast, this is for real this time. This podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news, features, reviews, and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and every other place you can find podcasts. Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial, podcast, and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.